Hello and welcome back to the Manifester podcast. I am so excited that you decided to join us for another badass episode with another one of my badass clients. Today we have Riki, and Riki is a gem of a client. I love working with Riki. We've been working together, I think, since 2020. And wow, when she first reached out to me, she wanted to be a coach. She wanted to slowly start to incorporate coaching and healing and space holding into her work, which actually she was already doing at the time. And we're going to dive into where she started, where she is now, what tools, practices, resources have helped her get there, and how she went from crying on the beach in Costa Rica, which is when I first met her in a retreat in Costa Rica with our mutual mentor, Jen, to now dancing on Instagram, hitting 5-figure months in her business as an entrepreneur and as a space holder and as a makeup artist and an esthetician and a tattoo artist. She is the coolest client I have. And I'm so excited to have her on the podcast. Welcome to the show, Riki.
Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, what a full body tingle introduction. Thank you so much for always making me feel so loved and supported. I feel like I don't even have to try to show up as my best when I'm with you. It's just like you have that effect. Thank you so much.
Aw, thank you, Riki.
Yeah.
So I briefly referenced the retreat where we first met back in 2017, 18?
November of 18. It was November 18.
Yeah, November of 18 in Costa Rica with Jen, surf and yoga for 5 days. It was amazing.
Amazing.
And can you kind of tell us where you were in life at that point and what happened that day on the beach?
Yeah, it's so funny because look, it seems like it was not that long ago, but also seems like forever, because I do feel like I've made so many shifts. And it's funny because the ripple of me even knowing that Katie exists is because Jen was on your podcast. And so it's like, I just love that that's where everything started. And when I met you that first night in Costa Rica at dinner, I just got so excited that it was you in the flesh in person. And yeah, I feel like I said a big hell yes to that retreat because of course I just love Jen so much. And I think I was, without really understanding the idea about proximity, was really kind of doing that. I'm like, okay, I just want to be around these types of people. I want to just inundate around that sort of energy all the time. And so it felt like a no-brainer to go. And I also was in a lot of transition of my life. Also at that time, I was a couple years after my divorce. And so really, I just started over at 30, and I feel like in a lot of ways, I'm still trying to catch up from that 8 years later from now. So I feel that I came in with an open heart and knowing I wanted things to be different in my life, and knowing, but not really knowing that it all has to do with me, like not knowing that I'm the only thing in my way. And I think about it's interesting because not little things, but that day that we had the awesome podcast, awesome playlist at the beach, and we're supposed to just be free, and I was watching all of you beautiful women feel so free. I watched you with so much envy of like, how can these women, especially women, because that's that little piece of it, like, can be so effortlessly confident and graceful and moving their bodies as if they enjoy them and love them and don't mind how they look at the beach. I was like, oh my God, I have never been more intimidated. But also the women that were on that trip, no one was a type of woman that was trying, I don't know how to say this, but trying to make you feel intimidated or something. Everyone was there for themselves. So it was so much more about me. And that was I still have awkward tingles telling Jen that I didn't like it. I'm always like, I can't believe, because for me, I have Jen on this like Jen sort of thing. And I felt like I was really disrespectful. And I also, because I just said, I didn't even know how I worded it, but I was just like, I hated that. That was awful because I cried my effing eyes out, like staring at that ocean. But now I also recognize, like, I did do a little bit of movement. I was allowing things to flow. And I know that so much of it was me not allowing myself to really feel things and not allowing myself to, because the truth is like I've grown up on the beach going to the ocean. I love how my body feels. I love how it feels to feel the sun on my skin, my feet in the sand and the water, but my brain makes me feel like my body doesn't look good enough to deserve that. That makes me almost want to cry because I've spent so much energy in my life not feeling good enough because fill in the blank, whether that's my body, my brain, my past, my thoughts, my anything. And it's all bullshit. It's such bullshit. And through the proper types of coaches and mentors and people in my life, I've like come to really understand that. And it's a daily practice to remind myself of that because I still go the other direction. But yeah, when I remember telling her, like, I hated that, that was awful. And Jen was so much like, okay, yeah, I don't care. Basically, like that's not about me. That's you. And I'm not offended by that. And then there was a relief of like, oh, that's right. She doesn't give a shit if I like, that's not what this is about. And my reaction to that, she will help me learn, is the issue. My issue is like that it was such a thing. And I think also like me, uh, for you're a perfect example. You show up all the time and I see you do this exactly that girl you were on the beach. It's that woman now plus like a lot of energy plus so much, and she is embodying that. And that, like, if someone watches you dance, Katie, and doesn't feel inspired, they're a robot. Like, because it's so like, how can you not be like, yeah, like feel it, like get it girl, get it girl, get it girl. It's like, I love that. And I feel like even just recently how I shared that was an impromptu, I'm gonna feel the music and dance into like a silly song that we all loved from the 80s, 90s, whenever it was. And the amount of response I got from my regular, not regular, but the people I'm always interacting with anyway was just so fun and positive. And I feel like I had a little blip of that same ripple of it got people to be excited. And I'm like, that's what I want to do. I feel like so much of my goal is to, I want to leave people better than how I found them, right? Leave them better. Like when you walk away, they're so much better. And yeah, I'm sorry. I feel like that's what I do.
I love it. I love it. And because I love it because you kind of started off with like your experience through your eyes of like what you were seeing us doing. And just for anyone else who's like, what was happening on that beach? Jen gave us all, what are those things called? They're like these little tiny
A shuffle
iPods.
or what? Yeah, the old school shuffle. I think it was a shuffle.
Yeah, a shuffle to
Yeah.
clip to us with headphones. This is pre like Bluetooth stuff. And 2018.
So old.
And was like, y'all all have the same playlist ready to go, press play, dance on the beach, like feel it out, and we're on a peninsula in the shape of a whale's tail, right? And we're in Costa Rica, and I was like, oh my gosh, she's so uncomfortable right now. And like, do I consult? No, don't, like, this is her process, and to see where you are now and how much your confidence and self-love and communication has grown over the last 2 years or almost 2 years is incredible. And that's what I want to highlight for people today. So could you tell us a little bit more about when we first started, you were like, I am done waxing vaginas. You're like, I don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then now you're like, and at the time you had a commute that was really long across state lines. You couldn't work close to where you lived, and a lot has shifted in your business since then. And I also we'll touch on the, like, you came to me about life coaching and I was like, you already kind of do that and what it is that you're doing. Right. So Yeah, I guess the question is basically like, can you give us a little bit of a snapshot as to where you are now in your life?
Yeah. And I was thinking when in November of 18, like that was a whole year before I closed Malama Day Spa, which was the business I had for almost a decade that I
Mm-hmm.
started with friends of mine, but it was all like, everything was on me. I started it from scratch and in a community where I knew nobody. So I feel like when it came to the point where I basically felt like I was just like a martyr of my own life. Like, well, I created all of this, but I'm the only reason why it's still that business became bigger than us. And I also recognized that I in the like definition sense, I am an entrepreneur business owner, but I've never aligned myself in the brain like that. I'm just someone, I'm more creative and I want to be able to be creative and make money this way. So and it is still a struggle, even though I have help now and I'm willing now to pay for people that know more than I do about certain parts of my business to help me. But I really, really struggled with a lot of it. And also internalize that and made it about me, so that's a whole other thing to recognize that like closing my business or letting go of that is not a failure. It is me like, it also takes a lot of courage to break your own heart. And now I'm like, man, I'm so glad I did that. But what I was just, working crazy hours every day just as I've built this business, I have all these clients, I feel guilty to do something else so it was a year before Costa Rica. I had already taken my first training to do permanent cosmetics as a tattoo artist. So I had already been doing that, but couldn't do it in the state of Oregon. So had to drive to Washington to do it. So yeah, you're right. Had that hour commute every day. So I eventually, at one point, I was like, I'd work 1 week in Oregon at my spa business and the next week in Washington to try to like at least have it easiest for me that week to not have to do it, just all over the place. But realizing like, well, I could take 10 clients in one day, or I could take one client in the same, like in half the amount of time, a third of the amount of time, and make even more money, but I'm not going to do it. So who do I have to be annoyed about? Like just me for not wanting to. Really, I felt like if I took that leap, really, okay, I feel like I know that I felt selfish. I felt greedy. I felt like I was backstabbing these clients that had built my business up. And now I was going to leave them to do something that I could make more money. And I really had to, and I think it's still something that I have to like, no, the truth is, that's not the case at all. But yeah, because it felt like I was turning my back on my own community in a way, because I let go of about 90% of my clientele to do this whole other thing. But the funny part about all of that, when I finally announced that and made it like official, I remember specifically the day that I said I didn't want to do it anymore. And it was like a few months after that. And then we officially said it was going to end. And it was something about affirming it into the universe. I was at a friend's house. I saw another friend. She asked me, what do you want to do? I said, I don't want to do this anymore. And she literally goes, and there you go. It's out there. And she is very kind of like us too. So I really held on to her saying that. And that is so true. You decide what you want with so much like conviction. This is what I want in my life. And it will come to that. Because I felt like my brain then started accepting new ideas, accepting like, how could this actually shift? Like, how does that feel? Is it possible for my life to enjoy it more and to also like actually show up better for my clients, because I'm not working 6 days a week, 10 hours a day. So yeah, now it's like when we had just talked last week or something, it's so funny. You gave me such a beautiful reminder that I forget that I'm like living the life I was praying for before. It's like, you need to check in every day, like every single day. I'm so grateful that I'm not doing that drive. Like, that's amazing. I have a 3.5 minute walk. So it's like, what song do I want to listen? What song do I want to walk in the building to? Because that is how close we are. Like, what a blessing. Even on days, which I love Oregon, but we're raining like 364 and a half days a year. So I need to like, it's nice to not have to walk super far. But yeah, it's just incredible. And I feel so much of this has just been the inner work I've done about knowing like I'm not a bad person because I want to live a less stressful life, and it will be less stressful when I have the abundance of money to allow me the freedom to live the life I want. And that whole, I think really, I always think of Amanda Francis. She's the first person that I really heard saying, like, we need to put the money in hands of more good people. And then something was like, yes, you're right. I'm a good person. I'm one of the good ones. So I promise I will be good with it, and really like it feels good. And I feel like I've noticed I'm more comfortable even talking about money with certain people still because, it's still it's so taboo, So, and I get that, but I'm like, let's make it less. We will create more of it if we talk about it. Like it's not so, because I wouldn't,
Exactly.
it's like people come in and I offer them like a water or refreshment. I'm like, I should not offer them cash. They're giving me cash, but it's like anything else. Like we're just like, let's assume that there's more than enough around. Anyway, um, sorry, I lost my train of thought.
No,
Or
you're
wherever.
good. I love that you brought up Amanda Francis because I wrote down Amanda Francis as you were talking
I love it.
because you set energetic minimums. You were like, I'm not available for this anymore. And then once you did that, like you said, you started to receive the like, well, what would that look like? What would I need to do? What application would I need to fill out? What websites? Like I need to do the research. Let's start
Yes.
there.
Yes.
And I remember you were waiting for a while to get your license and then
Oh,
or to get your
yeah.
test and then everything was kind of being dragged out and you were like it's happening
Yeah.
yeah.
And I remember that time because I at one point had 3 commercial leases signed. And that was scary because I'm like, oh, so I'm a home rent and I have 3 commercial rents. Awesome. And we're in a pandemic. Everything's great. And I mean, literally, like this thought process is what's helped me so much. I remember when I was in Washington and I was essentially getting politely evicted because they were selling the building and they gave me a not legal time frame to move out, which was totally fine though. And the man said to me, well, sorry to tell you, but we're selling the building. And I looked him in the eye and I said, that's okay, because everything works out for me. And he just was kind of like, what? Like, you dumb kid. I'm like, no, man, everything works out for me. And I was a little bit like, even saying it, I'm like, this sounds like bullshit, but it's okay. Cause I got clients booked out for the next couple of months. And you're telling me I don't have a place to work. I sent a video message to a girlfriend of mine that lives in that area. And by the next morning, I had a place to work. So it's like, another thing, it is not always about what you know in life. It's about who you know and their ripple also. So it's just like we attract the right kind of people, So everything just kept working out. And so I signed the lease to the place in Oregon because I thought I was going to get my license, but because of COVID, we were shut down, everything shut down and they would not let you go and take your actual state board. But I was thinking about the people that were nurses and hygienists and people that are in this, I shouldn't even say it like this, but in my head, I'm like, doing more important jobs. They couldn't even get in. So I was like, I have to just trust that this time is happening for an absolute, there's so much more value in this than I realized. And I feel that I was also so much more grateful. Like, man, I mean, I didn't get 100% on that test, but I came pretty damn close. Like I wanted that. I wanted it so, so bad. And now I'm here. And so, yeah, it's just incredible. And now I have the clients in my life for all the services I did in the past also that I really, really want. I really was like, and even the clients I didn't hold on to, I still like love them so much, but I had to look at my calendar and be like, okay, if I'm with that person and I also want to leave here and have dinner with her or really have a conversation with her, then I'll keep her in my life. And it was like, nothing against the people I didn't keep, but I had to be so intentional about that energy. And because I mean, at the end of the day, that's not what's paying my bills. It's this whole other business. So I had to keep the people that I just wanted to really keep. But I'm also really aware that there's probably going to be another shift where I don't have that either, because I'm just slowly taking that next step. I figured out something this morning that talk about energetic minimum and maximum. So I was feeling very, because of where I felt like my numbers were at right now, I'm like, God, I just feel like, I hope everything's going right. It doesn't seem like I am where I'm supposed to be. And then I just looked at last year where I was this time, and I'm exactly where I was last year, except this year I've already not worked almost 4 weeks out of the whole year. So I'm like, okay, so I literally have this. So I'm like, so that's my energetic minimum. I thought that, I wasn't doing it right or whatever. But really, it's like, you forget that maybe the numbers don't lie.
So you're saying that at this point last year, you made the same amount as you made financially at this point this year.
Correct.
But this year you've taken 4 weeks off so far, and it's only April 5th.
That's right.
Wow. See, I think that brings up a really good point, because sometimes, abundance, right? We hear this word a lot, right? It does relate to money sometimes, and sometimes it's your time,
Yep.
right? We don't work for ourselves to work like we did when we worked for someone else.
Yeah.
We work for ourselves to create freedom, and our clients are paying for us to show up in our power, to show up rested, to show up joyful, to show up supported and resourced and abundant feeling. And if that means that you take every other week off or 1 week a month off, whatever you want to do, you can do that, because the 9 to 5, 40-hour work week, 2 weeks off in a whole year bullshit, patriarchal white supremacist bullshit. Like, we don't subscribe.
Yeah, grossed out. I could not imagine going back. There's no freaking way. No way. I don't know what would have to happen to me or my life to get me back there, because I feel like I would come up with all the stops to not make that happen again. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because even when entrepreneurship gets hard, I notice that I will think, okay, well then what's the next step? Go apply for a job, go look on Indeed. And it takes me all of 2 minutes to be like, no.
Totally.
All I have to do is post on Instagram
Totally.
and say there are spots available. I feel like, so, okay, this is one thing that I want to ask you, because we are talking about your schedule and stuff. What shifted for you when it came to work? Like, this is what I want to ask. What did your work schedule look like when we first started working together? And what does it look like now? And how did that transition happen?
I mean, yeah, I work completely different now. That's for sure. I wish I could remember when, because we were in shutdown before we started. We were like in it, I believe, because I wish I knew like the time, because I know, so the truth is, the shutdown for me, because obviously I make a living touching people's faces, I was out of work.
Mm-hmm.
That was a huge like wake up call. That, I believe, planted the seed of me really wanting to do coaching. I know that for a fact. And then I feel like I've held the thought sense of, it is going to it's going to come in my life at the time it's supposed to. I just feel like I keep thinking, oh, I'm not ready. But then I'm like, well, the truth is I don't want to be ready for that yet. I'm still enjoying where I'm at now. I just know like that resonates so much that that's going to be where I go. So with how good I felt, I was the nicest partner, the best daughter. Like, I loved the world during
shutdown.
Oh my God. I feel like I want more people to talk about how, of course, like aside the fact that people were sick and dying, I can't, I'm not trying to not be that way, but my individual life in the stresses that I usually know completely were gone. And the irony is that the first couple of weeks, like, I was terrified about money because I will absolutely admit, irresponsibly paying off my debt, because from my business that I had closed, I felt there was a lot of shame around that. So I felt like this exists, that's bad, that means I'm bad, that means I failed. So once I can knock this out, that means like I'm actually a smart business owner, which really just put me in a terrible financial situation when I all of a sudden didn't have income coming in for 4 months. So I think like so much happened from that, realizing that like I enjoy my life more when I don't have those stresses. So how can I, like, as things reopen, like really pull that back in? And I think like I just trust that that happened to lead me to you, right? Because here's this like this energy from this person that's telling me like I could have this, it could be this way too. And I just trusted. And I feel that you were so good about just asking me those simple questions, like what would have to be different? What would we have to do different? What does that even look like? Because apparently I never thought it could happen. So I would never give myself, it's like you just gave me the permission to figure out, let's just like fantasize. What would that look like? How could we make it happen? And what steps do we need to take? Like, it's amazing how much better you help me feel about me being overwhelmed with my volunteer commitments. Like I get this like I feel like compassion fatigue with stuff sometimes, that I feel this, oh, I don't have children, I don't have this sort of thing. So I'm supposed to show up 100% for my community all the time. And to try to really, it's to try to make sure people don't think I'm a bad person by not having children. So I'm going to really advocate for children and animals and like anything that needs it, because I don't need to advocate for myself, apparently. Like that is definitely the mindset I had before. And it's like, wow, I actually can show up better for the things I'm really passionate about when I take care of myself. Like then I'm not burnt the F out about the animal shelter and about the children and all this stuff. So I feel like I have a really circle around answer as to how amazing you are and how much you've helped me, but that's just a piece of it. But yeah, like I think also, and I think there's a bit too with you that you are biologically younger than I am. You've lived less time on this planet. That's just a fact. And you are light years ahead in such a way where I am like happy to bask in like in the shadow of your light. Because it is just like, oh my God, she's doing it. And I think that is so much of the when you ask yourself the questions, well, why couldn't this happen in my life? Because look at, I know all these people that are doing this. So there's so much evidence that people can create this sort of life. So that's really powerful. I feel like you have to be careful of whose ripple you are in, you know, who you pay attention to. Like that is so important. I want to follow literally and online like the people that are doing the things that I really care about and respect, you know. Because I feel like we have different lifestyles, but a similar mentality of like wanting the kind of freedoms we want, and you know, the peace and the calm of that, and deciding for ourselves what that looks like. And so yeah, I totally lost my train of thought, but we were talking about how things are different now.
Yeah, and scheduling, like what your schedule looks like, and
Oh, it's so great. I love my schedule now. Well,
overcoming compassion
yeah.
fatigue too is also, yeah.
Oh yeah. Um yeah, because now I do things where I my best schedule currently are the weeks that I work Monday through Thursday only. I take one new client a day. I start my day with a quick appointment with someone that's a touch-up appointment that was included in what they paid me the last time they came in. And they usually still leave gratuity because money is an abundant resource. And I offer my clients such a valuable service. They want to shower me with their money. And then my second client is a new client every day. So I'm also recognizing, because just the other day I had it's just kind of the way the schedule worked out. I had two new clients in one day, and I recognize that is too much for me. It's too much. I was physically holding my shoulder and then like thinking, I feel like I did a good job, but I recognize that there's no way I could have took a third client. So I feel backing up. I think it would have been much better to just have that one client and be totally fresh for the next day. It's so much of I've had to not let people's desire to support my business, which is when I get overwhelmed, I have to remember that's what it is. These are people that are wanting to give me money for something I do. What a beautiful gift to be that overwhelmed with it. And now I have to recognize that woman is going to be way happier with everything every part of the interaction with me, even if she waits a couple more weeks, because I'm way more refreshed and I'm not overworking myself. And I'm not cursing that I'm not even 40 with tendonitis. It's like, this is not, that to me is a wake up call of like, okay, well, I want to still live a physical life, but my job is very physical in a specific way. So I'm not going to not live my life. So I guess we're going to back down here, which means maybe eventually I work even less and charge even more. So I don't know what that next step looks like, but yeah, I feel I definitely switched from, I had this total scarcity mindset in the past when I still had my spa, especially that like, I had to just, they had to come in, I had to get people in, I had to get them in. And that it's like, it's really like icky when I think of that time in my life too, because you work too much, which means you're exhausted, which means you come home and you're eating shitty food, or you're not eating food, and or I order crappy food super late at night, and just like that cycle, that cycle. And yeah, it's just not good. So I feel that just having you around as that constant reminder of how supported I am, like we forget. I forget every day. I have to tell myself, like, oh, it's fine. The universe has my back. This is right. Everything's fine. Because when I unpack the past, every hard thing led me to that next thing that
Mm-hmm.
it has to fall apart to be put back together, and we're all just on this actually it's there I want to is one of your podcasts, I've heard you say the words like, if you woke up as a human today, you're healing, right? Like that is very powerful of like, actually, I don't have to have it all figured out. I am just the version of myself today, still unpacking. That every level's a new devil. That's another one I love of yours, that it's like, okay, this is just, I thought I had this shit figured out, but maybe it's coming up again so I can go even deeper. Like it's, it's I love my healing, because I'm like, oh my God. And I feel like I look at the world with such different eyes,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah. And then, but also catch me on a day where I'm feeling like shit. It's that's hard too. But I feel like you give me, I listen to YouTube or your podcast or something for 10 minutes, and it's already going to get me in a different mindset. It's like, we just have to be intentional of what we are consuming,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and I feel that there are times where I am in a hard space in my life. And because I do see a lot of people, what am I doing? I'm telling 12 people about that hard thing in my life, and all I'm doing is bringing attention to it. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, I didn't think about that before, but when I would have 10 clients a day and I was going through my divorce, girl, 10 clients want to know where I was at every day. So I told that story every day, and no wonder I was stuck in it, because
Mm-hmm.
all I would do was think about how hard it was. Earlier I had clients this morning, and I've been with this lady for a while, and she's been through some hard stuff. And I literally interrupted her, and I said, what's great that's going on? Do you have any like trips coming up or planned? And her mood totally shifted. I'm like, let's just not talk about that, because you've been talking about that. Like,
Yeah.
you talk to your sister and your daughter and your therapist. I'm like, you are here with me right now. Let's talk about the good. And, I just felt like I know her enough that I could kind of do that, and it was fine. And she gave me a hug
Mm-hmm.
when she left. And, I just believe like, I there is no way that I'm supposed to be here on this planet to just be miserable with small moments of joy. That's impossible. I
Right.
believe in like, it is allowed to be so beautiful and awesome, and we're constantly getting winks from the universe letting us know we're exactly where we're supposed to be. I love that. I
Mm-hmm.
love I love some sort of synchronicity, law of attraction, where I'm like, that was just on my brain. Oh my God, that's amazing. Nothing random.
One thing I want to ask you about from earlier, because you were saying a limiting belief and then you go, no, the truth is, and I like watched your like body language around that, um that redirect, right, of redirecting the thoughts, which I feel like is something that you have to learn to do in order to be really intentional about manifesting, right? Like you said, oh, we're just living in the negative right now. Like, yes, look at the shadows, process the shadows, do your journaling, go to breath work, right? Like, look at them and process them, but you don't need to do that with every single person.
Yep.
You can do that privately on your own. And then with tools, which is something I want you to talk about, is your tool, one of your tools, meditation, being able to catch those negative affirmation rampages, right? And redirect them to, wait a second, I'm conditioning myself, right? I am living in my domestication of the patriarchy and white supremacy and capitalism and colonialism and all of that, making me feel like I need to be perfect, right? So can you talk a little bit more about the tools that have worked well for you in being able to catch those thoughts, redirect them, be more intentional with what you're talking about, using your words as your wand.
Yeah. I would say, I think something that was the most impactful actually a few years ago before I really landed on, but so backpedal to the fact that I have been off on working with Jen since 2011. And it's like she always talked about meditation. And I'm like, oh my God, this girl and her meditation. Now I've just kicked myself, Jen. You should have kicked me. But she also was never pushy with it, about what her things were. But anyway, so I feel like I knew of this idea, but I thought, I just thought it was not for me for whatever reason. Like it was almost too woo woo. Like what do I think I'm going to do? Like close my eyes, take some breaths and talk to God. Like, yep. I mean, like, I don't know what I thought from before. But years ago, I had read, a girlfriend of mine let me borrow this book called What to Say When You Talk to Yourself, I think is what it's called. It's very powerful. And through that really helped me because um it was something I have struggled with my entire life, like so many, is just that negative self-talk, always based around how I looked. Majority of the time based around how I look. And it would just be, which I feel like now, a whole side note, is interesting why I'm even in the industry I'm in. I feel like everything just leads you where you're supposed to go, or maybe not supposed to go, but you find your way through it anyway. But yeah, what to say when you talk to yourself. So that really helped me to stop it coming out of, I would started to be just literally more aware of the things coming out of my mouth in reference to my body. So it was specific to, I'm going to stop saying I look fat, or I'm huge, or I'm so ugly. Like these things would come out a lot, and that can really affect how you treat yourself, how you show up, how you everything. So I can specifically remember such a shift that I was just like, I'm going to be so aware. Like I'm at least around Kevin, I'm not going to say, oh, I'm so fucking fat. Cause I would say things like that. Cause the truth is, do I want my partner to start looking at me and thinking that? It's because you don't want to put any of that energy out there. So I think like starting to catch myself, really making the intentional thought of, when I say certain things, I'm going to trigger it. And there's that, what is it? Your reticular something system. I forget what but it's something, right? Like you have those trigger words. So you, like with your name, you're going to look when anyone says Katie. So I felt like it was something in me that knew, nope, the truth is we just don't say those things. So I had to just catch myself as I was saying it. And then it eventually, I mean, after a lot of practice, I could catch it before when the thought was even happening, and I wouldn't say it as much out loud. So I think like being aware of how powerful the thought turning to the words out of my mouth actually was really like, I think, a first step of my own healing of how I just really presented myself, and just was really trying to understand more of like who the truth is. The way I look, I want to be the least interesting thing about me. I don't want, when I die, to people to be like, oh, and she blah, blah, blah. I want them to talk about how they felt when they're around me, or how I helped them in some way. And so, I'm sorry, I'm going all over the place with that. But anyway, so through meditation, back to meditation, could say like that if I had to pick a tool that I would never not use for the rest of my life, would 100% be meditation. Like,
because that helped you to catch those
yes,
thoughts before they could become words and
totally.
become your reality. Yeah.
Because it, through like that practice intention of it, it allows you, I believe, to do that in whatever you're trying to do in life. Like, I think that, and I still always have to, like, if I skip a day or I miss a day, like just allowing that to be okay, because it's unlikely that I'm going to go every day for the rest of my life to have a full meditation session where I feel so cleansed, and I journal and I light a candle and I smudge everything and I feel like this perfect reborn version of myself. It doesn't always happen. But what it has allowed me to do is to like walk through life just on a lower, like, heightened frequency of stuff. It's just like I'm so much more aware, that I can control this, and I can close my eyes and take some deep breaths, and I'm going to be in a different mindset than I was when I found out that horrible news 10 minutes ago or something. It's like, because I think it's just a tool to allow us to get through the chaos a little easier. So yeah, I think I definitely have beat myself up by, like, having this new idea and then not sticking with it. And then I feel like, oh, of course, again, I'm going to be mean to myself about why I wouldn't do that because I am a whatever, fill in the blank, something negative, but it's just so ridiculous. But yeah, I think meditation, love it. Freeform writing, love it. Love it. That rage on the page. And oh my God. Can we talk about how you helped me write those letters to these two women in my past?
Oh my gosh, that's one of my favorite stories.
It's one of my favorite stories. It has shifted ever since that. It's like so shifting. So yeah, you had me write letters to two women in my past for completely, obviously, like, separate reasons, separate things, but things that were still really felt like at times was this wound that could not close.
Yeah. Y'all
And
had
so,
falling outs.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And just felt, there was zero intention of them ever reading what I wrote. But what you had me do was tell the universe how I want to feel moving forward from this situation. I got so specific, and I talked about specific stuff that had happened, and this is what I'm going to feel going forward, and this is what I want, this is what I'm letting go of. And I dug a hole in my yard and I planted it, and I said a little prayer and a blessing, and I just let it go. And 8 days later, I heard from one of those women. And it's still, I get a chill all the time. And it was very, like, clearing and just like, oh my God, so amazing. And I remember being like, I'm going to write a letter to everybody. Like, they're going to look like we have moles in the yard. There's going to be moles everywhere. But it just was
Yes.
like, and I think too, the power in that, it was just my intention behind it. Because I just believe that somehow I think her energy felt that to also come back to, like, clear it too, because I just have to trust with a lot of things. If you really feel it, that person's probably really feeling a lot of that too. And there's also a lot of shit that we just make up that they don't know about at all. But I think in this specific situation, that's a lot of it. And yeah, so powerful. And something that, dare I say, I would have thought was a little silly in the past. But no, I do not believe that is silly. I believe that physical manifest, or that representation of it, is that it's so, so helpful. So yeah, but the term you said, you were literally like, you're planting a seed. You're telling, like, the universe and the earth what it is that you're wanting. And that was just like, yeah. And what's going to sprout from it is going to be something beautiful.
Exactly.
Loved it. Love it.
Riki, where can people go to follow your journey, see you play with cats? And by the way, I love, love, love everything that you share from the shelter. There are shelters nearby, but I'm also open to adopting from your shelter. You know that. So I obviously keep an eye on everything that you do on Instagram. So if you're in Oregon, definitely follow her, especially if you're looking at adopting a dog or a cat.
Yes.
Mostly cats, because you share mostly cats, but please share where people can find you and how they can best connect with you.
Yeah. So I'm really most active just on Instagram, just Riki Leona Browse, Riki with 1K, Riki. And yeah, and I do a lot of work with the animal shelter, just trying to promote. I just feel like any ripple towards them is going to be good for cats and dogs, and it's awesome. But yeah, that's where I hang out. I have a website. If you Google Browse Astoria, Oregon, I'm the only thing I think that comes up. So yeah.
Yeah, got that SEO on lock.
That's right. So
awesome. Riki, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for you owning your path so much, that you have your ripple. I mean, I'm forever grateful. And I feel like that's the takeaway, right? Like, do it for you because you know it's so right, because it will ripple onto other people. And if anything, just inspires them to know that they can love their life in that way, and just go for it. Just go for your goals.
Go for your goals.
Yeah. So great. Oh, I just love you to death. You're amazing.
I love you too, Riki. Have a good one.
You too. Thank you.